What would you do if someone asked you to put everything you've built on the line for them? Today's story follows a young police officer from Texas whose life took a dramatic turn after receiving a request she never imagined, one that came from behind prison walls. This isn't just about breaking rules or bending boundaries. It's about a decision that tested her deepest values and changed two lives forever in ways no one could predict. Before we dive into this powerful journey, I want you to know this story will make you question what justice really means, how truth is defined, and how far determination can go when someone is committed to doing what's right. If stories like this resonate with you, tap that like button, subscribe, and share in the comments where you're tuning in from. And trust me, you'll want to watch until the very end, because the twists in this story are nothing like what you're expecting. Let's begin with Rebecca Martinez, a 26-year-old officer who had built her career on following every guideline, every regulation, and every protocol to the letter. She wasn't the kind of officer who cut corners or looked the other way. Rebecca was different. She had earned the respect of her colleagues because she treated everyone with fairness, whether they were fellow officers, members of the community, or even people in custody. There was a calm strength about her, the kind that made others stop and listen when she spoke. Rebecca had dreamed of working in law enforcement since childhood. Growing up in a small Texas town, she watched her father serve honorably as a sheriff's deputy for over 2 decades. From him, she learned that wearing a badge meant more than enforcing laws. It meant protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. It meant standing as a shield between order and chaos. Most importantly, it meant never sacrificing your integrity, no matter the cost. After graduating at the top of her police academy class, Rebecca began her career in Dallas at a busy precinct. She handled everything from traffic stops to domestic disputes, theft reports, and the everyday calls young officers face. Supervisors noticed her right away. She was professional, thorough, and had a natural gift for calming tense situations. Other officers even requested to work with her, knowing she always had their backs, but her unwavering dedication to doing things the right way sometimes set her apart. When Rebecca noticed questionable actions from fellow officers, she reported them. When paperwork was rushed or corners were cut, she spoke up. When supervisors pressured her to bend the rules, she stood firm. Some respected her for it, while others saw her as a threat. The real turning point came when her direct supervisor, Captain Williams, began crossing professional boundaries. Williams, a man in his 50s with decades of influence in the department, was known for getting what he wanted. When Rebecca made it clear she wasn't interested and rejected his advances with professionalism and firmness, he didn't take it well. Suddenly her workdays became more difficult. She was assigned the toughest shifts, the riskiest calls, and had her reports constantly scrutinized. One evening, Williams called her into his office. At first, the conversation sounded professional, but quickly turned personal. He hinted that her career could move forward if she chose to be more cooperative with him. Rebecca refused without hesitation, making it clear that she would report the behavior if it continued. Williams gave her a cold smile and warned her that she was making a mistake. 2 weeks later, Rebecca received orders. She was being transferred to a maximum security correctional facility 3 hours outside of Dallas. The paperwork said it was due to staffing shortages, but Rebecca knew better. Williams had used his connections to punish her for standing her ground. Instead of fighting the transfer, which could have risked her career even more, Rebecca accepted it with grace. She packed up her belongings and prepared herself for a completely different side of law enforcement. The environment inside a correctional facility was unlike anything she had ever experienced at the precinct. The moment Rebecca stepped through those massive steel doors, the weight of the place pressed down on her. The air felt heavier, the sounds were sharper, and there was an ever-present undercurrent of danger that never seemed to fade. This wasn't about community service anymore. This was about keeping order in a place where hope was often in short supply. Her new role meant supervising inmates during their daily routines, escorting them from one area of the facility to another, and making sure security procedures were always followed. She quickly realized that working inside a correctional facility required a very different skill set than policing the streets. Here, you had to understand body language, pick up on unspoken rules, and hold your authority firmly without letting situations spiral out of control. Most of the inmates fit into familiar patterns. Some were angry, always testing boundaries. Others had lost all sense of fight, broken down by time and circumstance. There were manipulators who tried to exploit every loophole, and the quiet ones who simply wanted to do their time and leave. Rebecca, true to who she was, treated them all with the same steady professionalism she'd shown throughout her career. But about a month into her assignment, one inmate stood out in a way she hadn't expected. His name was David Chen, and there was something about him that didn't fit the environment. David was serving a 15-year sentence for corporate fraud and embezzlement. Unlike many around him, he carried himself with a kind of quiet composure. He was courteous to staff, supportive of fellow inmates, and never sought conflict. Something about him seemed out of place in a maximum security prison. In his early 30s, David was educated and had worked as a quality control manager at a food processing company before his conviction. He spent much of his time in the prison library, devouring any book he could find. Other inmates respected him because he helped them write letters home, or guided them through complicated legal documents. Even the guards appreciated him, since he never stirred up trouble. Rebecca first noticed him during meal duty. While most inmates filled the cafeteria with noise, arguing, joking, or sitting in silence, David would quietly eat while reading a book or jotting notes in a small notebook. He always followed instructions, never pushed boundaries, and avoided any behavior that might raise concern. Yet when she looked closely, there was a depth in his eyes, a sadness that felt heavier than just being incarcerated. Over time, she picked up on subtle details. During yard time, he would often stare through the fences with a look of deep regret. When he thought no one was watching, the calm mask on his face slipped, revealing the pain he carried. At mail call, his name was never called. No letters, no visitors. It was as if the outside world had completely erased him. One evening, while making her rounds, Rebecca saw David alone in the common area, holding a photograph. As soon as he noticed her, he tucked it away quickly, but not before she caught a glimpse. It looked like a family picture. In that moment, she realized there was much more to him than his prison record revealed. The very next day, during a routine inspection of his cell, Rebecca stumbled across something that would change everything. Tucked neatly among his belongings was a folder, organized, deliberate, and filled with documents, letters, and what looked like evidence connected to his case. When she confronted him, David didn't deny it. Instead, he met her gaze and said something that stayed with her long after. He insisted he was innocent, that he had been set up by his former employer. Then, in a quiet but steady voice, he revealed something even more personal. He said he had made a promise to his daughter, who had passed away, and he had one last wish before giving up completely. He needed someone on the outside to help prove the truth and to honor the promise he had made to her. Rebecca stood frozen, the folder clutched in her hands. She knew that whatever decision she made in this moment wouldn't just shape David's fate, it could alter the course of her own life as well. His words hit her like a blow, leaving her breathless as the weight of his story settled in. Everything about standing in his cell with that folder felt dangerous, like balancing on the edge of a cliff where one wrong move could undo everything she had worked for. And yet something in David's voice, an aching mix of desperation and dignity, made her stay and listen. He spoke softly about his daughter, Emma, who was only 8 years old when he was arrested. Emma had been battling leukemia, spending more days in hospital rooms than she ever did on playgrounds. During his trial, while attorneys debated over balance sheets and corporate policies, Emma's health deteriorated. David had made her a promise during one of their last visits before his sentencing. He would prove his innocence and come home to take her to the ocean, a place she had only dreamed of but never seen. Emma passed away just 6 months into his sentence. David never got to keep his promise. He never had the chance to properly say goodbye or to show her the waves she had loved to look at in picture books. That unfulfilled promise weighed on him every single day. But there was more. After the trial, Emma's mother, David's ex-wife, had received threatening phone calls. Someone wanted to ensure that certain truths stayed hidden, and David believed his former employer was behind it. Rebecca found herself asking questions she never thought she'd ask. Why hadn't his defense team pushed harder on these leads? Why hadn't Key,